Welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This is a brand new TV series. This is an upcoming American fantasy drama television series created by Ira Parker and George R.R. Martin, a prequel to Game of Thrones from 2011 to 2019. Obviously, it is set to be the third television series in Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire franchise and is an adaptation of the Tales of Dunk and Egg novellas. It stars Peter Cleffy as Sir Duncan the Tall, aka Dunk, the titular Hedge Knight, and Dexter Saul Ensel as his squire, Aegon Targaryen, aka Egg. The series is scheduled to premiere on 18th of January 2026 on HBO Max and will consist of 6 episodes. Obviously, that's very cool, right? HBO announced that it was developing a new television prequel series to Game of Thrones in January 2021. The series follows the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall and the young Aegon V. Targaryen, nicknamed Egg, and is based off the novellas by George R.R. Martin that constitute the Tales of Dunk and Egg, taking place 90 years or I guess 100 years before A Song of Ice and Fire. There were reports that Stephen Conrad was hired to write for the series in November 2021. The series received an official order from HBO in April 2023. By then, Ira Parker, a writer on the first season of House of the Dragon, had already written the script for a pilot episode. Casting began in October 2023 with plans to begin filming in 2024. By February 2024, Warner Bros. Discovery CEO David Zaslav confirmed that the series had begun pre-production and that Martin was serving as creator and executive producer. In May, Owen Harris was hired to direct the first 3 episodes of the series and serve as an executive producer, setting the tone for the series. That June, Sarah Adina Smith was announced to direct 3 of the 6 episodes of the first season. Dan Romer scored the series. In April 2024, the lead roles were cast with Peter Cleffy as Sir Duncan the Tall and Dexter Saul Ensel as Egg. In June, it was announced that Finn Benet, Bertie Corval, Tenzin Crawford, Daniel Ings, and Sam Spruill had joined the cast as Prince Aerion Targaryen, Prince Baelor Targaryen, Tenzil Sir Lionel Baratheon, and Prince Maker Targaryen, respectively. In August, Edward Ashley, Henry Ashton, Joseph Kirker, Daniel Monks, Sean Thomas, Tom van Lorlen, I think, and Danny Webb were cast as Sir Stephen Fossaway, Daeron Targaryen, Steely Pate, Sir Manfred Tandorian, Raymond Fossaway, Plummer, and Sir Erlen of Penetry, respectively. Dude, these names, man, I have no idea what any of these guys' names. I just know Targaryen. Targaryens are a big part of the Game of Thrones franchise, so that's good. Production began in June 2024 in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and wrapped in September. That's 2 months of filming. That's decent, right? The first season is set to premiere on HBO and HBO Max on January 18, 2026. It will consist of 6 episodes. It was originally planned for release in late 2025. On August 3rd, 2024, HBO released the first preview of the series as part of the network's announcement of upcoming original programs. On the 11th of November 2024, HBO released the first look teaser for the series. On the 6th of October 2025, the first official poster was released, followed by the official trailer on the 9th of October. So, what did we actually, take from this description on Wikipedia here? It follows a knight and a squire in the realm of, or the world or the kingdoms of Game of Thrones. So there we go. I haven't seen Game of Thrones yet. I've only seen the 8th season, which is not the best season, but I've got this DVD box set, which I bought for like $10 with season 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm really, glad that I have it, so I can finally watch Game of Thrones. So there you go. So A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms looks promising. It has 6 episodes and will release in January. January is not the best time slot, I guess, for a series to be released. That's, I guess, suppose when streaming platforms dump the series that they actually just want to get rid of. Like obviously in January and February, people go to work. The Christmas is gone. People are not together. Again. So yeah, January, February is just like the beginning of the year, and nobody really, I guess nobody really remembers the series released in January and February. So obviously the cast looks, not really. I guess there are not a lot of famous actors out here, but with my wandering eye, I got a glimpse at 2 female characters that were unnamed. So Abigail O'Regan will play an unknown character in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and Rowan Robinson will also play an unknown character in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So Rowan Robinson is probably going to play Robin or Rowan. So there we go. Rowan is like a woman living, during the reign of Daenerys II Targaryen. In Dunk and Egg novellas, there is no character named Rowan, but there are two characters obviously named Rowan, as were in the Song of Ice and Fire novels. Rowan is a wildling spear wife in the world of Ice and Fire. Rowan Goldtree is an ancestor of House Rowan. And why did I, find interest in these characters? Well, in Game of Thrones, there are a couple of red-headed characters. There is also Olivia Cook. Obviously, Olivia Cook played in obviously House of the Dragon, which was an interesting series. Obviously, I loved that series. It's obviously a prequel to the Game of Thrones franchise and is set, I think, a few years before, but obviously, yeah, I'm not quite sure. Obviously, Olivia Cook as a tragic and introspective queen in House of the Dragon was interesting. Obviously, we had a couple of other characters in Game of Thrones who were also redheaded, which is interesting because Sophia Turner was also a redhead in the series, and we obviously also have Ygritte, which is obviously also a redheaded character, which is played by Rose Leslie, I think. But dudes, as the toy maker would say it, obviously from Doctor Who.
Yes, he be liking the redheads.
No, but all jokes aside, I just love me some redheaded characters, man. Damn. Okay, guys. Let's talk about the novellas, the Tales of Dunk and Egg. This is a series of fantasy novels by George R.R. Martin set in the world of his Song of Ice and Fire novels. They follow the adventures of Dunk and the future Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Sir Duncan the Tall, and Egg, the future king, Aegon the Fifth Targaryen, some 90 years before the events of the novels, obviously from Game of Thrones. 3 novels have been published: The Hedge Knight from 1998, The Sworn Sword from 2003, and The Mystery Knight from 2010. And Martin has stated his intention to continue the series. A collection of the existing 3 novellas with illustrations by Gary Guinea, I think, was published as A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms on the 6th of October 2015. Yeah, there we go. So I guess around 11 years later they made a series about it. It looks kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure. I'm really interested in this series because it's just a tale of like a guy with his squire just roaming around the kingdom, just getting into scrapes, and that's really interesting. The story was later adapted into a 6-issue comic book limited series by Ben Avery, drawn by Mike S. Miller, produced by Roaring Studios. Obviously, published by Image Comics and Devil's Due between August 2003 and May 2004. The story opens with the death of Sir Erlen of Pennytree, a wandering hedge knight. Sir Erlen's worldly goods are inherited by Dunk, his squire. Hoping to follow in his master's footsteps, Dunk sets out for the town of Ashford, where a tourney is due to be held. En route, he gains a squire of his own, a boy named Egg. The steward at Ashford is unimpressed by Dunk's credentials, but Crown Prince Baylor speaks up on his behalf, and he is permitted to enter the tourney under the name Sir Duncan the Tall. So there we go. Obviously, they get into all sorts of adventures, which is really interesting. The two set out in search of adventure, Dunk as a hedge knight and Egg as his squire. That's it. That's really simple. Like just 2 guys just going on an adventure, which is really nice. Obviously, the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is a character-driven prequel to Game of Thrones set nearly a century before its events, focusing on the adventures of Sir Duncan the Tall and his squire Egg, who later becomes King Aegon the Fifth Targaryen. Obviously, there we go. I guess these characters are kind of like interesting, right? Because obviously they somehow, some way have something to do with the Game of Thrones, story. The series explores a more peaceful Westeros, long before the chaos of dragons and White Walkers. It follows the humble hedge knight Sir Duncan the Tall and his precocious squire Egg, who hides his true identity as a Targaryen prince. Their journey reveals the social and political undercurrents of the realm, offering a grounded, intimate look at Westeros through the eyes of commoners and minor lords. So there we go. Obviously, the show centers around these 2 characters. Their episodic adventures take them across Westeros, encountering lords, knights, and political intrigue. Obviously, probably also villains, right? Honor versus ambition, class and identity, friendship and loyalty, the fate and glory of chivalry, right? Compared to Game of Thrones, the series is less violent and more character focused, emphasizing personal growth and more dilemmas over epic battles. So obviously, let's get into the scrapes and the connections between, I guess, let's get into the backstories of these two characters, which obviously later become very important characters, or so they say. So obviously Aegon the Fifth is the grandfather of Aerys II, the Mad King, making him the great-grandfather of Daenerys Targaryen. Okay, the great-grandfather. Okay, interesting. Very, very cool. Daenerys Targaryen. So, alright, fair enough. Dunk is later named Lord Commander of the King's Guard under Egg's reign. The series bridges the gap between House of the Dragon set 200 years before Game of Thrones and Game of Thrones, showing the Targaryen dynasty in the quieter era. So the first obviously series, I guess, in the story of Game of Thrones is obviously House of the Dragon, then obviously A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and then obviously Game of Thrones. Expect subtle nods to future events like the rise of the Blackfyre Pretenders and early tensions that eventually lead to the Targaryen downfall. Obviously, very, very cool. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So obviously, overview and backstory, let's just go over it. Just a little little recap here. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, scheduled for 2026 on HBO. 6 episodes, 1 season. George R.R. Martin's Tales of the Dunk and the Egg novellas. The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, and the Mystery Knight, 100 years before Game of Thrones during the reign of King Daeron II Targaryen. The series explores a quieter, more idealistic Westeros long before the dragons returned and the realm descended into chaos. It follows Sir Duncan the Tall and humble Hedge Knight and his squire Egg, who is secretly Aegon Targaryen, a prince in disguise. So there we go. Alright. The first season adapts The Hedge Knight, where Dunk and Egg arrive at the tournament at Ashford Meadow. Dunk hopes to earn glory and coin, but gets entangled into royal politics when Egg's identity as a Targaryen is revealed. The story explores Dunk's moral compass clashes with the brutal reality of knighthood. Egg hides his royal lineage to learn about the realm from the ground up. Obviously, their bond deepens as they face trials together. The Targaryen dynasty is stable but simmering with internal rivalries, especially among Daeron's the second sons and the Blackfyre Pretenders. Obviously, Egg is the grandfather of Aerys II, the Mad King, making him Daenerys Targaryen's great-grandfather. Obviously, the show is set 100 years before Game of Thrones, and obviously, I guess 100 years in the future of House of the Dragon, right? So, House of the Dragon shows the Targaryens before Game of Thrones during the Dance of the Dragons. The Hedge Knight takes place 100 years after that, showing the dynasty in a more peaceful but politically tense era. A key backdrop in The Hedge Knight, this civil war between Targaryen branches echoes earlier Dance of the Dragons and foreshadows future instabilities. So there we go. Very interesting and promising new series to look out for. I'm really hyped. Obviously, like I said, I've got this box set with the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. I can't really wait to watch it. Obviously, it will take a time, but obviously when I'm ready for it, I'm going to watch it, keep you up to date. And obviously, like I said, like I've mentioned a couple of times, I've seen season 8, but that was like 5 years ago, so I don't really remember it. And luckily, because people keep on saying that is the worst season of them all, which is quite alright. So I'm really glad to, I guess, be interested in this brand new series, and that will give me more interest and hype for obviously when I'm watching or going to watch Game of Thrones later down the line. So alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will check you later. Goodbye.
Sometimes I think I buried my courage alongside the old man.
And in every man, there are many men. So be brave. Be just. Be tall.